Hey everyone, Mike Vogel here. Welcome back to another edition of Break the Ice. Joined as always by crack producer Zach Garrett, and joined today by Caps defenseman Jakob Chychrun. Thanks for joining us, Jake. Let's first talk about your early hockey memories. Obviously, your dad played in the NHL, but I watch O and his kids, and some of the other guys and their kids around you. Your dad retired a few years before you were born. What are your earliest hockey memories that involve him?
He was just always bringing me to the rink. He coached me my whole life growing up in Florida, and I think the first memories of skating in Florida were with Stanley C. Panther, the Panthers mascot. My mom's family actually my mom's father always had season tickets, and so we've had them in the family. We still have them. My parents still like to go to games, and my dad just loves being at the rink. But I grew up going to all the Panthers games, and there was just a skate at the local rink for young kids to get introduced to the game, and you'd go out with the mascot and bomb around. And my dad always tells a funny story. I guess I was only a few years old, and I'd be bombing around, and I'd go up to him on the bench and say, "Daddy, I need to go home and take a bath. I'm all wet," because I'd be all sweaty. So I loved it, though. I would just go out and have fun, and but the hockey's grown so much in South Florida. I think a lot of guys who, play for the Panthers or who, when they're done playing, they like sticking around in Florida. And so there's a lot of ex-pros that were, at the rink coaching the guys. And my dad, did a great job with my group of, 98 to, that kind of age group area where he was coaching. And he was even coaching older guys. And I remember, I don't know what age, maybe like 92s he was coaching, and he'd bring me to the rink, and I'd kind of look up to some of those guys, and just always enjoyed being at the rink with him. He always tried to make it fun and work on the skill side of the game, and he'd have guys playing all different positions and working on different things, and I remember he'd bring soccer balls on the ice and have us working our feet and footwork, and he just wanted to be creative and make sure we were having fun doing it.
Do you think you became a defenseman because he was a defenseman, or you said he liked to have you skated?
Yeah, I grew up playing
too?
forward. I loved playing forward. I played forward probably till I was
on the wing.
No, I played center. Probably till I was about 10 or 11, and then we were just kind of short on guys on the back end, and there was one year where I basically played shift to shift. I just kind of go back and forth. And then my last year in Florida, I played defense the whole year. And then that was like with Dewey and all the guys. And then so I was playing up in age group. And then all those guys ended up leaving Florida. They went to play prep school. Prep school was a big thing. Back in the day, everybody wanted to go play prep school. So they were all a year or two older than me, so they all left, and that's when I started playing for Detroit Little Caesars.
Yeah.
My parents didn't really want me, leaving the house at, I guess it would have been 13.
Yeah.
So I lived in Florida, went to school during the week in Florida, and my dad and I would fly every Thursday or Friday to Detroit and play games. I practiced with a junior team in Palm Beach and during the week, and then fly on the weekends to Detroit and play games and bring all my schoolwork on the planes and take tests on Monday when I got home. And it was good. Taught a lot of discipline and time management with school, and great memories with Pops on the road and hotels, and fun memories.
I was going to say, how much do you think that I feel like a lot of hockey players, and especially hockey players who grew up playing in areas like Florida where the game's not traditional, have to leave just to play against better competition. How much do you think that accelerated your maturation just as a human being?
Yeah, big time. My first year away from home was 15. Technically, I was in Toronto.
That was Toronto, yeah.
And my dad was there quite a bit, but Yeah, I mean, you definitely got to grow up pretty quick. I think you sacrifice a lot as a young kid without even really maybe noticing. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely knew I was making sacrifices, but it was what I wanted to do. I was missing out on a lot of, school events with my buddies and, parties or whatever you want to call it. But I was always so motivated and so dedicated to the game and to training and working on, just being the best I could be. And yeah, you definitely grow up quick. I think you have to, in my situation at least, with all the travel and schoolwork was a big one. I mean, my dad always preached school. He had his career was kind of cut short because of concussions.
Yeah.
They sort of made him retire at 29. So he went back and got his degree at FAU. There's a great picture of him on graduation day at FAU. He's holding my sister and I with his diploma. And yeah, just he was always a great role model and always preached school. Never knowing when your career could come to an end, and not knowing if I was even ever going to make it. He just wanted me to make sure I was, taking care of stuff away from the rink, and I took it seriously. I was a really good student, and I really enjoyed school till I left. And once I got to Sarnia and was playing really well in Sarnia, that's when I started to kind of, really go all in on hockey and sort of not really want to be at school that much. I was still, doing what I needed to get by. But, in Florida, I was taking honors courses. I was really loved math and science. And, I had a 4.0 GPA my last year, first year of high school in Florida. And my teachers loved me because I was outperforming the students who were there all week and taking tests on the day they were supposed to. I would bring all my homework on the plane, and I'd come back prepared, ready to write exams, and I did really well. So I was, proud of that, and I think the teachers that I had were awesome, and I went to a really great school in Florida, and loved my teachers. So yeah, it's a big part of it. But credit to my pops for always making sure that we were focusing on that side of things and not just on hockey. So,
At what age do you figure you were sort of dialed into making the NHL? Who were the kind of players that you looked up to, and what do you think you'd be doing if you weren't playing hockey, given your love of academics?
Yeah, well, my dad was great. He let me play every sport I wanted to, other than football. Football was kind of the one thing.
Good for
he was
him.
worried. Yeah, he was worried about me because I wanted to play really bad. I did weightlifting with the football team. It was one of my instead of doing PE or physical ed, I did weightlifting. They let me do, and it was with all the football guys, and the coach was our teacher in that course. So he was always trying to recruit me and get me to come out to a couple of practices, but my pops never let me. And we had a big football school, like ESPN would be there every Friday night,
Wow.
broadcasting the games, and I loved it. We had some studs come out of our school, so yeah, I looked up to those guys and I wanted to do it. But anyways, I loved baseball. Baseball is probably my close number two. I played first base and I loved batting. And I stopped that. There kind of comes a time where you just got to kind of pick one sport. But I played soccer for my high school, tennis. I loved tennis. I did baseball. I did basketball. Yeah, so it was great. I think it's important to do that. I think these days all the kids, they focus so much on hockey and they play hockey 365 days a year. I think it's great to have breaks from the game and be a kid and play other sports and have fun. But for me, I don't know. I was always so into athletics, and I think athletically gifted and worked hard at it. And it'd be tough for me to say I wouldn't be in another sport because I probably would. But I did have at a young age, my mom's dad was he was an entrepreneur and very business-minded person, very successful. He started a company in the automobile industry, and got him in the Automobile Hall of Fame. It's a family business. My mom, she took over when he passed. They publish books on the tire industry, and all the auto body shops need to have their information on hand. And I wish I could have met him. He passed when my mom was pregnant with me, but my mom said that I would have just hit it off with him because for whatever reason at a young age I had this entrepreneur mind, and I always was thinking about businesses and ideas and money and just trying to think about that next step in life. And for some reason I've always kind of been driven by business. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I would do. I remember having arguments with my pops on university, and just I never thought, as a young kid, never thought I would have needed to go to university even to be successful in business. And you see there's so many avenues these days. There's so many successful people that don't go to university and who have mentors, and they find a line of work that they can go into and find a niche and create something out of that. And obviously social media these days and YouTube, there's just so many things. And I think about all these things away from the rink. I think about ways that you can kind of grow the brand, and I don't always execute on it. That's just the way life is. You get pulled in so many different directions, but I think, I'm fortunate to play the game and make a living playing the game, and I don't really need to find another avenue. But I think if I had to, I would have found a way, one way or another. And I love listening to all these business people talk about the failures they've had, and a lot of people go bankrupt before they make it. And I just think it's having that mentality and mindset that you never give in, never give up. And I feel like that's kind of, I've had that in me with sports, but I think I would have been the same in business if I had to go down that avenue.
Well, it seems like you were kind of working ahead, prematurely gifted in a lot of ways. You're able to, as a 16-year-old in Sarnia in the OHL, excel. You're able to, in the NHL, as an 18-year-old playing defense, play pretty well and play a lot of games. What went into that? Because that's not easy. Like typically, defensemen take longer. And even if you look at the guys who are drafted in your draft, like there's a few of them in the first round that didn't make it, that washed out, including one that was taken ahead of you. What do you think enabled you to come out of that and be sitting here today with 500 and some games played? And for me, I think you stay healthy, you're going to get over 1,000.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think you don't really think about it in the moment, or even for me now. I mean, I'm sure one day I'll look back and think about it a bit more and think about maybe some, key things that got me here. But for the most part, in the moment, I just, like I said, try to be the best I can be personally, as a teammate, as a, I don't know. I just think, like I said, I've always had a belief in myself and my abilities. And, I think for me, you kind of asked earlier when I went all in, and for me, as a young kid, I just always thought I was going to be in the NHL. I don't know why. I mean, I definitely, excelled when I was with my peers, and I just felt I was going to make it and was going to be successful, and I just never thought otherwise. It's almost like you just convince yourself before you even know. And I definitely had the work ethic. I mean, it wasn't like I was naive or like I was just had a false hope. I mean, I believed it and I worked at it, and I think I'm not sure. In Arizona, I just think there was an opportunity for me to go into camp and have a good camp. And, I played a lot of minutes in preseason. And, I remember Dave Tippett was the coach. And I think the last preseason game before they, I think someone asked if they were going to send me back to juniors. And he said, well, I mean, he just played like 23 or 24 minutes for us. I don't know how I could just let him walk. Like, he was a big part of our game. So yeah, I don't know. It was something, I just think there was an opportunity, and I took advantage of it.
And, when you get drafted into the NHL, your story can turn out, I mean, when you came in, I guess 30 teams in the league can turn out 30 different ways depending on where you go. The eyes that see you, the opportunities that are there in that organization, on that team. And it seems like Arizona turned out to be pretty good for you in terms of, I know you bought a house out there, you love the area and everything. When you look back now, as a guy who spent a number of years there, and now that franchise has moved on to Utah, what needs to happen for there to be a successful NHL franchise in that area, in your opinion?
Man, I hope they go back there.
I do too.
It's such a phenomenal place to live. I just think they took a gamble on bringing that rink to Glendale. I think at the time Glendale was growing pretty rapidly, and it was supposed to become sort of like the next Scottsdale, and it just never panned out, and it never quite got there. And the football arena, the stadium's out there, so they kind of thought maybe that would help, but there's only 6 or 7 home games for the fans to drive all the way out there for us. I mean, people aren't going to be able to make it to 41 for us, so especially when there was a lot of tough years there. So that probably didn't help. I mean, success usually brings the fans, and I don't think they had much of that early on. So, but yeah, I think a big thing was just having an arena in the right location, and then having really solid ownership. I think that's something they also struggle with at times there. I mean, for me, I went through a number of ownership changes in my time there. I was there 7 years, and I think it started with a group of people, and then one guy bought out the group, and then another guy came in and bought the team from that guy. So I went through, I guess, 3 changes in ownership in my 7 years there.
And the league owned it for a little bit before that too.
The league owned it, right? So obviously solid ownership goes such a long way, and I think you even saw that with the last owner there. He was trying hard to get arena deals done, and the cities weren't really cooperating, and there might be a reason to that. I'm not sure, but I think you get solid ownership in there. You hear rumors of maybe like the Suns owner. He's a young guy, has tons of money, and he was able to buy the Suns, and I'm sure he would be a guy that could maybe help bring them there, but I'm not sure. It would be great to bring it back. Like I said, you can't find a better place to live in the wintertime. I'll probably always keep my house there, and every time we go there, my wife and I talk about when we retire, we might want to be there. So, and I'm a Florida boy. Like, I love the ocean. I love the water. But there's just something about being in the desert there that just feels right and feels amazing. Tough place to not be happy. It's funny saying that because I tried getting out of there, but that was obviously for hockey reasons. But,
right.
We sure loved our time there.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's 2 years ago tomorrow that you were traded from Arizona to Ottawa. What went into the back and forth with management about wanting to move on, and then what were your thoughts when you learned about the trade and that you'd be going to, where your dad grew up, where you had some family?
Yeah. I haven't talked about this in a while, but I know I've talked about it before. I think we had our new GM come in, Bill Armstrong, and I remember sitting down with Bill and my agent, and he told us, we were going to kind of go through another rebuild, which I had already been through a couple of them. And so it was just getting to the point where it was frustrating. The team never really wanted to take a step to try to turn things around and buy into our core. And so he made us aware he was going to kind of do that again. And, he kind of told us, he's like, if you don't want to go through that again, we'd be willing to maybe move you on to a better situation. And I was surprised. I was thankful that he had that conversation with us. I wasn't really expecting it. Looking back, I think Bill was great. I mean, I really enjoyed my time working with Bill, and when he came into the league as a player back in his day, he said, one of his first training camps was with my dad, actually. My dad, he told me stories of my dad kind of looking out for him and taking him under his wing a bit and helping him out. So I think he was always grateful for that. So I think he felt like he kind of wanted to do the same for me. But yeah, we then left that conversation and we never spoke of it. We didn't speak of it again for a little while. We wanted to really think about it and before we said anything, because I thought I was going to be there my whole career. And so things started out pretty rough that year. And yeah, I had some really hard conversations with my family and loved ones and lots of, pros and cons lists and emotions and tears and just thinking about what would be best for me and my future in hockey, because obviously I loved living there and I had bought my home and put a lot of money into it, thinking it was going to be, my home for a really long time. And just a lot goes into that decision, and we did not take it lightly. But ultimately, we thought it would be best for us to maybe try to get moved on to a better hockey situation. You only have – I remember my first year in the league was with Shane Doan and Mike Smith. And their message constantly was – you can't just keep saying, we'll be better next year. Next year we'll have a better chance. Like, you really need to take every day you have in this league is a special opportunity, and the years fly by. Like, they really do. I mean, I still can't believe it's, my 9th year in the league. You just want to take advantage of your time, and you only have so many opportunities to win, and that's what you dream of and hope of as a kid. So that's really what made me make my decision in trying to get out of there. And it took a while. I was kind of drawn out a bit, but it ended up being a pretty cool move to Ottawa. I mean, I was really excited. Lots of family there. My whole dad's side's still there. My sister was living there, grandpa, and lots of cousins. So I was thrilled for the move, and I thought we were going to have lots of success there. And then, that didn't go great for our group either. Another ownership change. Just a lot of, coaching changes. It's just, I've had a lot of that throughout my career, I suppose. So that's why being here has been just so awesome. I mean, I've really, really thoroughly enjoyed my time here. It's just, I've touched on it a ton, but, top to bottom, this group is just special, and it's just been a blast. So,
did that trade come out of the blue for you? The trade to Washington?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I was at my cottage in Ottawa, and my agent was saying, I think maybe, so the ownership change happened in Ottawa. The new GM came in, and Steve Staios. I think Steve, I loved Steve as well. We had great conversations, and I think he really liked me as a person, as a player, but he didn't really like the situation he was left with. Like, obviously the left side was...
You guys are kind of overly stacked there.
Yeah. So I think he felt he had to do something, and, so my agent was basically saying, if something was going to happen, it would probably happen before... What do you say, before the draft or before free agency opened up. And so I think the draft went by, and then free agency was about to open up, and nothing had happened. So I remember, my agent called, and I asked him, I'm like, so since nothing happened, does it seem like I'm probably going to stay here? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I would just kind of plan on that. And we were kind of talking about getting ready for training camp in Ottawa, and having the summer in Ottawa, and, getting ready to just get ready for next season in Ottawa. And then he goes, oh, hold on, Steve's calling me right now. So literally he called me back like 2 minutes later, and he goes, "Well, you've been traded." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So it was just a roller coaster of emotions for me, feeling like I was going to stay in Ottawa, and then 2 minutes later, you're actually going to Washington, and so that was crazy, a crazy moment. I remember not really knowing what to think, honestly, because Wash was actually a team. I remember when I was in Arizona that they had a lot of interest when I was in Arizona, trying to maybe trade for me. But when, in Ottawa, there was a few teams my agent was telling me about, but Wash wasn't one of them. So that was also another reason why I wasn't really expecting to hear Wash. And once I did, I didn't know what to think. And then called my dad, and he was right away. He was like, "Oh, that's awesome, and you're going to be reunited with Scotty Allen, who was my D coach in Arizona." Even Jason Serbus was my first medical trainer in Arizona, and obviously Dylan Strome lived with me in Arizona his last year before he got traded. So there was a lot of familiarity, which got us really excited. I remember, Scotty Allen was my first call, and he was just so pumped, and talked about the conversations they had, and it quickly became so much excitement, and I remember being on the phone with, it was maybe my agent down by the water, just like 10 minutes after the trade went through, and my mom started screaming from up top at the cottage, and she just started screaming, "Dewey." And I was like, "Dewey?" And she's like, and yes, he had just signed right after the trade. He had just signed for, a few years. So that was also another just really cool moment, growing up with him, to now be playing together in the NHL was something I was really excited for. So, yeah, it was just, it was definitely a whirlwind of emotions, and it happened out of the blue really quick, but it was great.
What was that experience like as a pro athlete when you're playing for a team and you visit other cities, you get impressions of other cities, then all of a sudden you're traded to that city, and how does your impression of Washington change? Like you only come here once a year with Arizona, and pandemic not at all, and then with Ottawa you're coming here twice, but I guess you're only there for that one full season and the tail end of one. How has your impression of this area changed now that you've been here for 6 or 8 months versus what you had in your head from just 1-2 night visits?
Yeah, I wouldn't even have known that the guys were living in Virginia, for one. You come to D.C., stay in D.C., and it's such a cool city. Obviously with all the government being right there, the White House, and but yeah, since living here, like, we love living here. I would not have imagined it to be such a great place to live, with so many young families and great neighborhoods, beautiful suburbs, great restaurants, and it's just really cool driving by the White House every day. Like, it really is. It just doesn't get old. So, yeah. And even my sister had lived here out of university for a few years. My mom went to GW.
Oh, wow.
So there was familiarity even within my family in this city, which was also really cool. I had visited my sister a few times when she was living downtown, and but living in Virginia has been awesome, and the museums and in DC, and it's been great. I still feel like there's so much to do here, and so many things to see and explore, and we haven't done a fraction of it. So that's also the exciting part, is there's always something to do.
Your mom's American, your dad's Canadian. How does it work when you're a dual citizen hockey player? Do you decide which country you represent? Are you allowed to go back and forth? How does that work?
That kind of happened organically. So, man, I mean, my dad, he's Canadian. He got his citizenship through the green card that he had for a while. But he's done a ton of stuff with USA Hockey. He still does. Like, he does all the development stuff for the kids, and he's a part of all those national camps and stuff. So he's done so much for USA Hockey. He never pushed me either way. And I think the U.S. program, the development team, was such a big thing. Started to become really big when I was a kid, and that was something we were really interested in and looking into. And I mean, for me, the first thing I wanted to do was college hockey above anything else. I mean, I didn't even know about major junior hockey. For me, I always wanted to go to, like, it was BC. For some reason, we had a tournament in Boston, and we visited Boston College, and from then on out, I'm like, oh, I want to go to BC. So for me, it was trending towards the U.S. And then I got drafted to the USHL at 15 years old as an underager, you could call it. I went to camp, made the team in Youngstown. They gave me
needed permission.
Needed permission, yeah. And one of my buddies, Tony D'Angelo, I found out had played in the USHL at 15. There was a group of guys who had done it.
Yep.
So the team was very optimistic and hopeful I could do it. Like they made it seem like it was going to be no issue at all. I had a billet family lined up. I was going to live with Kyle Connor. I was enrolled in the school. I had visited the school and met the headmaster and everything. So I was really excited for that. And USA Hockey didn't get back to the team for months. Like, they just didn't give us an answer. And then it was really late in the process, and guys were showing up for camp, getting ready for camp and everything. And I was still at my cottage because I wasn't sure if I was able to go. And they sent us an email, just like a couple sentences, just saying, we think guys should play with their own age group, so we're not going to let you play.
So that's when you landed in Toronto.
That's when I went to Toronto, yeah. So, and then that year in Toronto, Team Ontario for Hockey Canada asked me to play in the U17 tournament as an underager. And that's just how it happened. It was very, I almost didn't have to make a decision.
They asked.
It just happened the way it happened. So, yeah.
So, ideally, sometime between now and July 1st, you sign a contract extension here. But obviously, that's your decision. I'm not going to try to sway you either way. But if not, I mean, this is a pretty good summer for free agents in the National Hockey League with the salary cap climbing up. You've obviously you've got a dad who played. You've got an uncle who played and had an amazing long career and coached a little bit. You've got a lot of people that you can use as sounding board. But what's your checklist? Like, what boxes do you need to check for your next location, which I'm guessing you're gonna want to be for 7 or 8 years, or maybe not. I was talking to Chris yesterday, and he said he thinks, given the way the cap is going, some guys might opt for shorter deals and then try to hit again a couple of years later. What are your thoughts on all this?
Oh, man, I don't know. These are obviously sensitive conversations for me right now with everything going on. So I feel like I got to watch what I say. But for me, I mean, I've touched on it a lot. I think we really do love it here, and it would be great to get something done. And if not, I mean, for me, like, I just got married a few weeks ago, and
congratulations.
Thank you.
During the break, yeah?
Yeah. But, I feel a big, I'm just so excited for that chapter of my life, becoming hopefully a father. My wife and I, we want a big family. We want lots of kids. So those are things that, it's so different now. It's not just me and my hockey. There's definitely other things that we take into account now. But for the most part, I mean, there's not many bad places to play in this league. So yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to think about free agency. I mean, that's crazy to even talk about right now. So I'm not.
You got a lot of bigger fish to fry between 100%. Now and then, anyway.
I've been doing my best to just stay in the moment, and it's been easy because this group is so awesome, and we're playing so well, and things have just been so great here. So, that's really been my goal. My mindset is just do everything we can to stay present. Both me personally and this group here, because we have the ability to do something, really special and spectacular with everything we have going with this group right now. So, it's exciting, and that's definitely my main focus. I've been getting more questions on the contract, and I just try to just respectfully say I don't want to start talking about that every day. I really do want to be present and be here with this group. I love the guys so much. I love the coaching staff. Management's phenomenal. And I just want to be here and do everything I can to win with these guys here.
The last thing before we let you go, you haven't had a ton of opportunity to play playoff hockey in your career to this point. You got the bubble year with Arizona, when I think 24 teams got in. Stromer doesn't count that for himself, but
I don't count that either.
I count it only because at the end of the road, the Stanley Cup is there. So for me, it's as legitimate as anything else. Maybe the fringe. You could argue about the fringe and the number of people that are teams that were let in, but how much are you looking forward to actually playing in 16-team Stanley Cup playoff?
That's what everybody in this league wants to be a part of that. I mean, that's why we play. We don't play to go through the motions and count the years down. We play for an opportunity to get in. And you talk to anybody that's been there and won. I mean, the hardest thing, not the hardest thing, but the biggest thing is just getting in. Once you're in, anything can happen. And it seems like you see that year after year. There's always teams that are maybe not the best in the regular season, but built for the playoffs, you could say, and teams that surprise people. And I just think the biggest thing is getting in, and anything can happen from there. And for me, we got in with Arizona on the technicality. Like we were definitely on the outside looking in that year. If COVID never happened, I don't think we would have made it. But we ended up beating Nashville in the 3-game play-in series, so we technically got in, and then we lost 4-1 to Colorado. But no fans and everything, so this is going to be different, going to be special, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
I think we all are. I only asked the question about the contract because fans ask me about it all the time.
For sure.
Fans here definitely want to see you stick around. So thanks to Jakob Chychrun for spending some time with us on today's edition of Break the Ice.